friends, I'm going to show you card number 4 of my series of 5 cards featuring the new What I Love stamp set from the 2016 celebration with Stampin' Up! And I have a piece of Whisper White that measures 4 by 5 1/4. My card base is also Whisper White that measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So we're going to set this aside. And in one of my previous videos featuring this What I Love stamp set, I had a circle that I punched out, and I set that aside because I knew I was going to be making this card. So this circle was cut out using one of our circle framelits. I'm starting with my solid image from the flower. So for the flower, I'm going to be stamping with Wisteria Wonder, and then the outline will be stamped with Elegant Eggplant. So I'm going to be using my lighter color first, which is the Wisteria Wonder. And because I'm using a lighter ink, I'm not going to worry about stamping off first because I know that my outline stamp is going to be in a darker ink. So I'm just going to go ahead and stamp down. And I think we'll do one more there. I'm also going to stamp on my circle. I'm stamping off a little bit. Okay, now I'm moving on to my Elegant Eggplant. I'm using the smaller of the bold images now for the flower. Because I am using the Elegant Eggplant, I am going to stamp this image off onto my scrap paper first, just to get some of that ink off, and then just stamp down. Oops, forgot to stamp off on that one. Okay, now I'm going to be inking up my outline stamp in the Elegant Eggplant and stamping right on top. I'm not worrying too much about lining it up because I know it's still going to look really good. Oh, and I forgot to do my second layer on these ones, so I'll go back and do that. I know some people really want to make sure that their flowers all line up, but honestly I think that looks fine, so I personally don't worry about it too much. Okay, I've gone ahead and added some of the greenery, and I'm going to add a little bit more using the leaves. The greenery here is used in Wild Wasabi, and now I'm stamping using Old Olive. Right, I'm going to go back into these flowers where I forgot to add that second layer of color using my Elegant Eggplant and remembering to stamp off, and I'm just literally stamping on randomly. Okay, next taking my blending pen again and just coloring in those leaves, pulling the ink from the image that we stamped. This is one of my new favorite stamp sets from the Occasions catalog. It's called Picture Perfect, and it's another 2-step / 3-step stamp set with roses and starfish and the hummingbird and your leaves. And the sentiments in this stamp set are absolutely gorgeous. Love them. For instance, dream without fear, love without limits. How pretty is that? Our hearts decide who is family. Really, really nice. So I'm going to grab one of those sentiments to stamp in the middle of my circle. And the sentiment I'm going to use is "You are just the nicest." I'm actually going to stamp this using my Memento ink, which is the preferred ink when you're using your photopolymer stamps. So there I have my sentiment. And now we're going to add a whole different dimension to this card. I'm going to cover this in glitter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my First Mark ink pad, piece of scrap paper, and I'm going to cover the whole thing with my First Mark ink. And I'm also going to ink up my circle. And you want to make sure you've got your pieces completely covered in your First Mark ink. If your ink starts feeling like it's a little bit dry, then just get our ink refills and get your ink pad good and wet again. So now I'm just taking my heat and stick powder and I'm just putting it all over where I've got my First Mark. I'm doing that on my circle, and then I'll do the same thing with the larger piece. Then I'm going to heat set this so it becomes a bit of a tacky adhesive. So now I'm going to emboss those two pieces. So once you have heat set that, your powder becomes adhesive, so you want to quickly put on your glitter, which I'm just going to dump right on top of this paper. Tap it off. Slide our paper aside. We'll pour that back into the container in a minute. And we're going to heat set that again so that it goes into that adhesive. And I find sometimes it's good just to turn it over and just rub that glitter in. So then you have a very sparkly piece. So now I'm going to do that to the second piece. Okay, and again I'm just going to flip that over and just rub all that glitter in. Make sure it's really into that adhesive. And there's another very sparkly piece. So now to put the card together, I'm just using a glue stick because it's what I've got handy. So I'm just putting that right on the front. And again, I'm just gonna push that down really well. And now I'm going to take some dimensionals to put behind this piece. Tuck that right on top. Just like that. And there you have it. Very, very sparkly. And it's nice to have that circle and that dimension and everything raised. So I hope you enjoyed that card. Thanks for watching. Happy stamping.